Guys, welcome back to the channel. This is Mr. Siege. Now, we've had 12 new commanders released in Rise of Kingdoms in the last 5 months, which is absolute madness. That's an average of like 25 days between pairs. And yes, the commanders get released in pairings, like QSH came with Shapur, Mary came with Archimedes, and so on and so on and so on. Usually, commanders get released between 55 days and 75 days or so in their corresponding pairings. And I'm not saying you should pair these commanders together, but like archers usually have 2 releases, then inf 2 releases, cavalry 2 releases, in no particular order, guys. But this brings me to the question, which many are asking, should we get another commander swap? 12 new commanders in 5 months is madness, surely. So maybe it is time for another commander swap. First of all, let me know what you think down in the comments section, whether you think we should get a commander swap or not. And I'll give you my opinion right now. So on the 26th of June, I believe it was, I've been told by my kingdom, we had the release of QSH, Emperor Qin. I believe that's how it's pronounced. And yes, he is the latest and greatest commander. Well, archer commander, but is the greatest commander in Rise of Kingdoms right now. So, as you'd expect, everyone should be investing in this commander. Unless you're insane, like me, of course. Although, even I'm considering maxing him for Kingsland in my KVK. Now, QSH came with Shapur, which is obviously a rally commander, a conquering commander, and a very good conquering commander at that. So those are the first 2 commanders that were released, like 5 months ago, so end of June, which is about 5 months ago now. Then, of course, we had Mary and Archimedes, which are engineering commanders, but not just engineering commanders, they're actually KVK 2 commanders, Season 2 commanders. So yes, I am going to go through all 12 commanders released in the last 5 months and give my opinions on who should actually be maxing these commanders, and whether that means we should be getting a commander swap or not. So those are the KVK 2 engineering commanders. Then we had Afonso in the leadership engineering cycle. And of course, he did come with a leadership commander, which was none other than Matthias, actually related to John Hunyadi, I believe. He is a city garrison commander. I know he's a garrison commander, but I think it's actually mainly, city, if they're garrisoning your city. So he's a city garrison commander. Then, of course, we had 2 new gathering commanders. That's Casimir III and Pepin III. So, as you can see, I have not maxed these commanders out either at the moment. The only ones I've maxed at the moment is obviously the siege commanders, the engineering commanders, as expected. Then with the announcement of the Troy KVK, we got given, or at least announced, Achilles, who has been out probably about a month now, even possibly less than a month now. And also the leadership commander, Hector. If I can find him, here you go. He's not even summoned yet. So we've got Hector. And he's a very versatile commander. And he has got the versatility tree. But yeah, he can be pretty much used for anyone, except engineering, of course, because his active skill won't work. Some of the other skills will work somewhat for engineering, but definitely nothing an engineering player should be investing into. Obviously, that's if you're a siege main. But I will go through who should be investing in these commanders, of course. And then freshly introduced into the game is Gamchan. And we've not quite had David yet, but David should have been here this month. Apparently he's not going to be now because he's not in the current MGE, which he should be. But next MGE will be in December, so he should be available in early December, which probably does give us just over 5 months since QSH and Shapur actually dropped in the game. So first of all, which commanders can we pretty much completely ignore? And I would say the integration commanders, obviously the gathering commanders, Pepin and Casimir. Now these can actually be maxed from the gathering chests you can get. Obviously most people would have used those on the other legendary gathering commanders, which was only 3 before these were introduced. And to be honest with you, they're not necessary. Not everybody doesn't need to go max these straight away. The second skills are probably the best In fact, one of them has got, you'll receive additional resource items, which is really good actually. Receiving additional resource items after gathering is great, but it's not the be-all and end-all. The second skills are very good because they're gathering speed bonuses. So if you just got these to 5511 from using the legendary gathering chests that you can obviously get from events, and I think I've actually run out of them now. Oh no, I have got 10 more. So if I use 5 now, I use 5 on Pepin, and I can use 5 on Casimir, and obviously that gives me more opportunity to then max the commanders in the future. And you can get those chests pretty easily. I mean, I don't even know how I got those, and I used all of mine the other day. I guess it was yeah, I guess it was from that like supply event or something like that, and I must have placed in the top 50. I don't know, and maybe got 10 chests from that. So Pepin and Casimir, not necessary. And that brings me on to the engineering commanders, because these are also pretty much not necessary for 99.9% of players. Mary and Archimedes, yes, if you're in Season 2, fine, you could get these commanders, but even then I'd be so wary of having to invest in these commanders so early in the game. When you get to Season of Conquest, they're going to be pretty much useless. And I'd only invest in these and max them if you're going to do a commander swap for Gonzalo and obviously Garjamada. So yeah, most people can just ignore these commanders, unless, of course, you're a siege main and you're as crazy as I am. Obviously, that leaves 8 more commanders. Then we have Afonso. Afonso is probably the worst engineering commander available in Season of Conquest, possibly. Although he has got some AoE, which is so tiny, it's barely relevant. So again, unless you're a siege main, Afonso, completely unnecessary. And yes, as you know, guys, I've wasted 3 lots of 690 gold sculptures on these 3 commanders. Yeah, I'll get some kind of use out of them, possibly eventually. But there's much, much better commanders I could have invested in. I only invested in these 3 commanders basically for content and to bring the testing to you guys to basically say, don't invest in these 3 commanders. Although I thought Afonso was going to be slightly better. So that's another one off the list, Afonso. Then we've got Matthias, which is obviously a city garrison commander. Now, is he the best city garrison commander? Possibly. Why would you invest in him unless you just had gold heads completely free to use, and unless you like random TP in a lot of zones and taking city rallies? Maybe you rely on taking city rallies to get your kills in KVK instead of being on the field, potentially. Then yes, I guess you could invest in Matthias. But again, I'd say 99% of players definitely don't need Matthias. And then there were 6 commanders left. So now we're getting on to some of the best commanders released this year. And let's go straight to archers. We've already mentioned Mprichin, the greatest commander in Rise of Kingdoms right now. And everyone should be investing in this commander. And honestly, if you haven't got him maxed yet, this is what you should be working on. You should be working on nothing else. I've actually used this commander. I've actually used QSH on my partner's account, Mrs. Siege's account. She has T4 troops, decent gear, nothing crazy, no accessories, okay inscriptions and armaments. And pretty much every time I went out, I was playing dot mode. I'm fairly good at fighting now on the PC with these commanders, and every single time I traded positive, probably like 5-to-1 trades, which was unreal for like kind of a pretty standard 50 mil power T4 account against decent opponents. We're against Apocalypse Gaming and that, and performs so well. This commander is just so broken. Yeah, she did have a maxed Zhuge Liang too, but QSH. Okay, there's 690 gold heads. You're not going to waste. Get this commander. And then we have Shapur the first. So who would invest in this commander? Well, rally leads, and only rally leads. Pretty much a whale of your kingdom to actually need this commander. Like, most people, again, aren't going to require Shapur. So we've only got 1 commander so far that I think most people should be investing in. These are the commanders now are pretty much going to be Krakens. Krakens will invest in Shapur because they're going to be doing rallies, and they're also going to be garrisoning, which will obviously bring us on to Hector in a minute. But Shapur definitely is in the meta for rallying. So yeah, a great option for, you know, archer main rally players. Now let's go on to Hector. So this is an interesting one. Now, if you just need a commander that's super versatile, you know, maybe you sometimes run cavalry, sometimes run infantry, you do, you know, you want someone for maybe a city garrison as well. I can understand if you wanted to then invest in Hector, because he does a bit of everything. Again, doesn't work for engineering, but everything else he works for, and he's okay. I don't think he's broken in anything. Now, people were saying that for a garrison commander, secondary to Gorgo, this commander Hector was absolutely broken. I'm not so sure about that. Chisgall doesn't seem to think so either. But yeah, versatile wise, this commander could be a decent enough investment. But again, not a necessity. If you're an infantry player and you run 1 infantry march or 2 infantry march, yeah, 2 infantry marches, it probably does get into your lineup. But one inf march, you're going to be running by Q Luce or vice versa. Obviously, if you're an archer player, if you run 1 archer march even, you're not going to need Hector. You're just going to run QSH and pretty much anybody. Even the second best archer march isn't going to include Hector. Now, if you're running cavalry, we don't really need Hector in your lineup then either, because we've got so many more cavalry commanders that have just been announced in the game. Before, we obviously had Arthur, which is a great commander. He's doing really well in the game. But we also had Achilles that came with Hector. Now, Achilles, I would probably say, is the second best commander in the game right now. 5 target AoE, absolutely smashes, and he has a chance to recast this with the Pelion Spear effect here from his Hephaestian armor, which is crazy. And this can basically be casting at any time if Achilles is receiving damage factors. So if you run 1 cavalry march, you are going to want Achilles in your team, and you already know that, surely, guys. Now, the only question is then, do you just run Achilles with Arthur, which is great. It's an absolutely solid march and probably the best cavalry march. Or you could run Achilles with Gamchan, which I think is such a good pairing. The healing, keeping Achilles alive and causing that Pelion Spear to be cast even more times during his outing, especially in like an altar fight. The healing from Gamchan is great, and you don't even take more severely wounded like you would with other healing commanders. I think that pairing is absolutely insane, and I've seen some great results from that pairing as well. But again, Arthur is just as good with Achilles. No healing and more damage with AoE. So yeah, that is probably the stronger pairing in terms of damage cast. But if you want your march to last longer, definitely Gamchan. So I do think invest in Achilles if you're running mixed troop types, 1 cavalry, 1 archer, 1 infantry, and even 1 siege potentially if you wanted to, depending what you main. But you are going to want to run Achilles even in a 3 pairing lineup. Then this does bring us on to Gamchan and David. Now, David is a cavalry garrison commander, could be used on the field. Definitely won't be a cavalry 2 march meta on the field though, because you'd run, your Gamchan and Achilles, and then your second march could either be Huo Arthur or Arthur with Philip. But again, if you're a garrison player and your cavalry gear is insane, then yes, you'll probably want to get David as a garrison for, flags and city or whatever. Whatever you want to do with him, I don't know a great deal about cavalry, as you know, because I'm Mr. Siege. But people are saying that he's going to be broken. I'm not so sure, but we'll see when he's in the game. Cavalry are due a decent garrison commander, so he could be insane. Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see for that. So after reviewing all those 12 commanders, I think only 3 commanders are really, really necessary for those general field players. And you know what? Not even that. You might not even want the 3. You may just get the 2. And personally, I think that would be QSH as 1 and Achilles as the second. If you're running an archer and a cavalry march. That's not Achilles though. This is Achilles. I'd say Hector or Gamchan are a potential option if you wanted to run another cavalry march or a cavalry march that just has a lot more healing. And Hector would just be a versatility commander. But again, just not total necessary. It's just not that necessary for me. Yes, if you're Kraken, you're going to want to invest in more of the garrison or rally commanders that have been released over the last 5 months. But even then, you just pick and choose the commanders that you think you'll need. I think most people generate probably 100 to 150 gold heads a month, and that doesn't include, you know, spinning the Wheel of Fortune amongst other events that you could potentially win decent amount of gold heads on as well. And that generally means you can max like 3, potentially 4 commanders a year. Now, I know I'm not a huge spender, so I can probably max 2 to 3 commanders a year just from the 3 gold heads I receive each day. So the ultimate question is, do I think we need another commander swap? And honestly, I don't think we do. I think people just need to make the right choices in the commanders. Wait, that's so ironic. Why am I saying people need to make the right choices in commanders they invest in Rise of Kingdoms? I've invested in 3 of the worst commanders I could have invested in this year. And yes, it was a mistake. And even I am not saying we should get a commander swap, guys. Even though I would probably swap these 2 for, well, at least one of these for QSH, of course. So that is my thoughts on having another commander swap. I don't think we need it. I think people just need to make the right choices in Rise of Kingdoms. Don't listen to everything everyone says that you need this commander, you need that commander. They're going to be meta. Wait for testing. Invest in those AoE commanders generally that are slapping on the field, like QSH, who is so versatile, works with Shajar, YSG, Liang. You know, YSG, he's available. Wait, when did I get YSG? He's available so early in the game. He's available in KVK 1. He's absolutely slapping with YSG because he's that good. So guys, for me, yeah, no commander swap needed. Tell me what you think in the comment section. I'd love to know. Hope you enjoyed the video. This is me, Mr. Siege, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.